The campaign strategy. And CORD, as it was back in 2013, was accused of running a not very fine campaign machinery, that they failed in so many different areas in comparison to TNA and URP. TNA was started to be one of the best campaign machineries that Kenya has ever seen, run by very young people, very progressive people, digitally savvy, but CORD was the opposite. Now, what exactly should we expect NASA to do differently when they're discussing their strategy this time around? Sandra.
Thank you, Fred. As you rightly said, during the last election, they were accused of not being out there as much as they should have. And one of the key things that perhaps they assumed at that particular point was with regard to voter turnout. You read in the media a couple of days ago, they're saying that they've already outlined a number of strategies that are going to ensure that they have a huge voter turnout, and that is what they are relying on as compared to what they did in 2013. But besides that, it's as a party, one thing they have lost. I would say that compared to Jubilee, they are starting the race a little bit late, so to speak, given the issues that they've been grappling with before, and particularly in terms of choosing a flag bearer. So they have a lot of ground to cover, and they should hit the ground as widely and as fast as possible. And this, of course, entails them having the necessary resources, them having their foot soldiers ready, so to speak, to ensure that they move with their campaign swiftly and credibly. And
from what we've seen, even with the party nominations, Bwana Gabriel the kind of machinery, the way hands-on the president and deputy president are with the Jubilee Party primaries. We've seen the chaos in ODM strongholds, the number of things they still have to handle. You're seeing, just before the break, we were discussing about the issues from Wiper strongholds. Are you seeing a trend that probably, even in the way they handle their own parties, then there could be trouble ahead?
Indeed, Fred. It just precipitates trouble ahead. Number one, out of thought, from what we saw, the symbolic primaries that were conducted across the country, if I was to advise both coalition and NASA, so to speak, I would start by telling them they should have done, they should have covered or really tried to bring together the areas which are quite disgruntled. They should have played that card very well. Instead of, first of all, going to retreats and what have you, I think they should have traversed the nation to bring together the people, mostly those who lost into those primaries. Most of them, as you've heard, have actually put their cases forward. Those cases, we don't know when they will be determined, and if they are determined, really, I think it will be time bad for people to join in or to get any fair hearing. So I think the number one thing that they should have done is bringing their people together. They failed on that because they've already gone out to start doing their retreats. The number two thing, which I hope they would do, I don't believe they are going to strategize in any way, shape or form to run their campaign machinery. What I believe is going to happen, they are coming to bring together and iron out the things that we saw play out within their people, like Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula. I know they've received a lot of beating from their respective backyards. Kalonzo Musyoka, you have seen, he's already received an element of beating. So I think when they sit down, these are some of the things that they probably are planning to bring together and probably iron out the issues that we did not, or we were not privy to. So there are two things that sit out or sit closer to where we are seated, and those are the bringing the people together within the NASA fraternity. Those are the five principles, and then the people who lost. I think that is where they should have begun, but their retreat really does not signify them sitting down and coming up with any strategy to run their campaign. I think it is, number one, for them to iron out the things that their people are talking about. You saw what the Luhya community is talking about, you saw what the Kamba community is talking about, and justifiably, how do we bring in the numbers from Rift Valley? So they have a bigger cake to bake, and it all depends on how they go out there and their discussions. We'll just have to wait, Fred, and see what comes out of the retreat that they are going to.
But do they have enough time, Bwana Dan Maanzo, because you see the kind of fallout that you're seeing from especially Ukambani strongholds, a party like Wiper losing its chairman, other senior members totally disgruntled. Members like Bwana Bernard Kiala, Senator Muthama, Musila, so many other leaders. We've seen the kind of fallout as well in ODM strongholds, still to do with the party nominations. Do you think these principles, and especially those two who should be on the coalition's ticket, Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, do you feel that right now where they sit, they have a clear mind to actually work on a campaign strategy, or are they distracted by trying to contain the fallout within their parties?
I think the fallout will be contained by the people themselves. You know, once the people make a decision and they choose a leader, that decision should be respected. Should someone feel that the right thing has not been done, there are proper channels within the party. There's an appeals board, and also there's a tribunal. And there's a whole month now. The whole of the month of May is actually by law one for settling all disputes, whether in the tribunals or court itself. And after that, by that moment, then you have your candidates. The moment the party makes a choice by majority of its members, then that particular choice is likely to succeed. The moment there are complaints and somebody does not accept the will of the people, then they are likely to get into people in subsequent elections.
Some of these parties have just decided to hand-pick or get into agreements like the one Bernard Kiala was just talking about a few minutes ago.
I don't think it was hand-picking. I don't think this order. Then another. So I want to say in Ukambani there is no fallout. I don't believe we have lost the Honorable Bernard Kiala, and in fact, should we form government, I'm sure we'll take care of him in one way or another, and you have heard him say he will not leave the party. Though the Honorable Musila has left as an independent
and this is the second time you've just promised Bwana Kiala a job.
Yeah. And though you have heard that the Honorable Musila is now independent candidate, I can assure you, if he was elected governor in Kitui, and if the people of Kitui really want him to be their governor, I can assure you will work with us from where we'll be sitting in Kitui. But already now, for now, the people of Kitui have spoken, and we need to respect what the people of Kitui have said. If the people of Makueni did not nominate me, or if there are people who came to vie against me and I lost, I will have accepted the will of the people of Makueni. And this is something politicians must learn. So I don't think there is any problem in Ukambani. We are 99.9%, the 0.1% representing Mutua, working with NASA and working with the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. Okay. The 0.1 is inconsequential, and we have already donated it in advance to Jubilee. and I don't think there is a problem with that. The organization of the party last time is true. We had one or two lapses here and there, and that could have costed the party the win. Of course, the vote was stolen big time, and this time we are putting mechanism. We are going to have parliamentary centers. We will know the vote. It will be announced at each polling station, so there is no chance of stealing the votes while they are on transit. And then now we are working with the Honorable Musalia. So there are changes. There are many things which are, so that we are not doing things the same way we did in 2013. We have so many new things. Now we have the Honorable Kiba on board. Yes. We have the Isaac route, the fiery Isaac route on board. So the Valley is actually divided into two. And we have a lot of votes now. We are like NARC in 2002.
And those new things that you're talking about, let's talk to Sandra. Sandra, of course, one of the things that CORD was accused of doing in 2013 was that these leaders had surrounded themselves with some old guards, old politicians with nothing new to offer to the youth, and that they had nothing new to offer even to the Raila candidature in terms of campaigning and trying to endear himself to the young people, something that Uhuru and Ruto did so well last time. How different do you think they can do it this time around, given that even the entire lineup, Mudavadi, Raila, Kalonzo, Isaac Ruto, Moses Wetangula, there's no one there you can describe as young.
I do agree with you, Fred, and I think this is a problem that's affecting most of the political parties we have around. And as you are having the conversation, one of the questions I'm asking myself, who else is speaking for NASA besides the principals? Who else is carrying the NASA flag? And the question you've asked has a good number of dimensions. First, it relates to how political parties generally include young people within their structures. And secondly, it also relates to the systems and structures they use in terms of attracting and retaining youth membership within their parties. When we look at issues of membership, and this goes back to registration, how is NASA as a party attracting young people even before the election period takes place? Are they members? Are they valid members, so to speak? Are they given opportunities to run the party? Are they given opportunities to make decisions or participate in decision making within the parties? And then once you have these members, how are you working with them during the campaign period to ensure that you secure their vote and that they are also speaking for you, for the party, in terms of your ideology, in terms of what you stand for and what you want to move forward? And like I mentioned before, this is a problem for all parties, because our structures generally include young people, let me say, through a periodic measure, as opposed to looking at young people as integral parts of political parties right from their formation and on to the election period. So I agree with you. NASA has supporters from the young population, but then it must still work harder in terms of retaining their interest, and this is through social media, through the various groups that they had, so that young people are not participating in campaigns as foot soldiers only, but they're also participating in terms of making decisions and moving the agenda of the party forward.
Yes, Bwana Muthuma, what do you think? I assume you're good when it comes to political strategies as an analyst. What do you think NASA can do that could actually shock Jubilee this time?
The greatest shock I thought they would present to the people was getting another flag bearer apart from Raila Odinga. Even though every direction, every place I tried looking, it was still pointing back to Raila Odinga, given the fact that when you look, when you compare him with the rest of the pack, he has the national outlook, he has what you would call a serious monetary war chest that can handle, and not only handling, but sustaining a campaign, a presidential campaign election. So those two actually, those are actually two huge advantages that you bring to a party. But I thought if they were to spin Jubilee and find them flat-footed, was for them to present another flag bearer, but that they didn't do. When I look at the strategy that they have, and Sandra has alluded to something actually very important, is the time factor. They don't have much time, so they have a lot of ground to cover, which is very true. They don't seem to be in a hurry to cover that ground. They are not involving, so to speak, and that's why I was telling you, Fred, I thought they would hit the ground running, number one, by bringing their people together. Every day as time moves on, we are seeing people bolting from that coalition and going to independent every day. So what are they doing to ensure that they mitigate that risk? Because sooner or later it will come a very big issue. And guess what? These independent candidates will go back there and fight with the people who've been elected. I told you the likes something that probably I'll just like to guide or to bring back the reasonability of what Dan Mazo said when he spoke about Isaac Ruto joining the bandwagon. You have to be reminded, Fred, that what we were back then is probably what we are today. And we saw in 2002 how the community, the Kenyan community at large, and our tribal affiliation, I'm sorry to say this, but this is how we vote. You know, our tribal affiliations will always come ahead. And it's a bad thing. I'm not saying I support it, but that is just what we were yesterday, and that's what we are today.
Do you
look at Isaac Ruto?
Do you think NASA still has a chance to pull a surprise card against Jubilee?
At this point, I don't see it. Because look, they brought, like I was explaining, they brought Ruto in. And when you look at Governor Isaac Ruto, you start, I really racked the numbers that he had. And I brought in the irrelevancies and the relevancies of that particular community. When you say Rift Valley is undecided, I think that's a very wrong thing to say, Dan Mazo, justifiably by this actually notion.
Okay.
You remember 2002, why the Kikuyu community actually made Uhuru irrelevant is because they had Moi Kibaki. Communities don't throw away power. And if you had your NASA principles talking about power, trust you me, they know what they are talking about. Communities are not in business of throwing away power. You must give them something so close to power than William Ruto, than Isaac Ruto, who is holding some fifth you know, power rank in NASA. So you must give them something that they will be grateful for.
Because
but
of time we have to end.
Isaac Ruto, trust you me, they won't vote for him.
We have to end it there, Gabriel Muthuma. We now need to link up with Stephen Leto for an update on ODM Party's disputes tribunal. Leto, very good afternoon. If you can hear me, we do understand that the disputes tribunal for ODM has decided to switch venues now. Remember, they were attacked yesterday. Where have they switched to? Leto? Leto, if you can hear me, we do understand that the ODM Party's disputes tribunal has changed its venue. I don't think you could hear me at all. But let me wrap up with Sandra and Bonadan Manzo. Now, the same question I asked Bona Muthuma. Do you think NASA still has an opportunity to pull a surprise card against Jubilee? Do you think it is practically possible? Sandra.
Thank you, Fred. The discussion going on is that Jubilee shouldn't take anything for granted. Fine, it has had a good head start, but then politics, like they say, is a game, and politics has a lot of surprises. You look at the margin that Jubilee had last time against CORD, it was very thin, and given the question you asked earlier, given some of the issues that they had, if they can iron that out, then they'll give Jubilee a run for their money. So indeed, Jubilee could have had a head start. NASA is also preparing, but the stakes are out there.
Bonadan Manzo, finally.
Yes, first of all, we have many other new things we have done, as I said, and we have also reorganized our areas where Jubilee tried to interfere while it was in power. First of all, Jubilee, in the last 4 years, you know, did a few things which have made very many Kenyans unhappy, whether they are from Jubilee areas or not. And first of all is the high cost of living right now, the cost of hunger, the corruption we have seen. For the first time in Kenya, money stolen from government coffers for the youth was being shifted in sacks, and those matters have been going on, you know, in the parliament and other places, and it's a fact. So corruption has really beaten Jubilee. Even the Jubilee members themselves are not happy with the corruption practices. The Rift Valley allegedly says their power base, which is now the deputy president, has been eating alone.
But Bonamazo, it is said that you lost the element of surprise after picking the candidate. Now the question is, do you think there's still something that can surprise Jubilee?
You know, what Jubilee feared most was the Raila candidature. In fact, they would have gone to sleep if it was Musalia, because they would have known how to deal with him. They would have gone to sleep to a good extent if it was Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. And without the Raila, you know, pool, it was still very tricky, you know, to begin introducing a new candidate who may not have been sure of certain things. I want to say that the dissent in Western Kenya, the few people here and there who may not have felt happy, are now happy, and we are together with the whole Western region. It is now consolidated.
Okay.
And I believe the youth now, you know now what has happened to Joho. The governor from Mombasa is even stronger than he used to, and the people of Mombasa and the whole coastal region resolve is even much stronger.
Okay.
So those are serious surprises on Jubilee. In fact, they were very surprised with the Raila candidature. They were commenting on it instead of bothering their own business. And I can assure you, this time around, NASA will NASA Jubilee.
Okay, we have to end it there. Thank you so much, Bonadan Manzo and Pima Kweni, Sandra Ochola, political analyst, and Gabriel Muthuma, political analyst, helping us understand what exactly is NASA looking at or could be looking at when they're working out their campaign strategy. Remember, the 5 principals are on a 2-day retreat at the coast at a secret location working out the NASA coalition strategy, campaign strategy. In a short while, we'll be looking at what's trending. Brian is already in studio, but before that, let's link up with Stephen Leto. Leto, if you can hear me now, good afternoon. We understand that the ODM's Disputes Tribunal has had to shift its venue, the venue of its sittings. Where exactly are they doing it now?
Well, Freddie, indeed, they have shifted their sittings today following what had transpired yesterday after men in black descended at the Marsh Park Hotel along They said at first in the morning that they would be sitting at Marsh Park, but again they had already settled to have their sittings at the Gracia Gardens Hotel here in Kilimani, and that is where we are right now. As you can see in the background, security has been intensified because there is a lot of crowds building up ahead of these sittings. Already the 5-member team led by Willis Otieno is already inside the Gracia Hotel Gardens just to speak or to give the findings to the lawyers of the candidates or the petitioners who had filed their complaints with the tribunal. Remember, it is intending to ensure that by the close of business today it dispenses a lot or a chunk of the disputes that had been filed before the team. Remember, already those that were being the petitions from Nyatike Member of Parliament Edic Anyanga, that one of Millie Odhiambo, coming to defend her re-election or her ticket for the Mbita parliamentary seat. We have Onyango Olo for the Kisumu Central parliamentary seat, aspirant seeking that ODM ticket. And also, like we said earlier, Fred, yesterday they dispensed with the Migori gubernatorial race where Okoth Obado was handed or was confirmed as the ODM party flag bearer for the August 8 polls. And so several other, there were certificates that were withdrawn in the Nyanza counties, like for instance Kisumu, where that issue was still stood unresolved. And so those are some of the things we intend to see how the tribunal is going to handle today. Remember, they have a very short limited time to ensure that they conclude that the hearings and conclusion of the cases before the 10th of May, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is expected to receive the lists of all successful candidates and those who will be contesting for the as independent candidates, so that they started the process of preparing ballot papers for the August 8 polls. And so here in the Gracia Hotel, where the ODM tribunal is sitting, security is intensified. Supporters of some of the aspirants who had filed or lodged their complaints with the tribunal have already started arriving here outside, just trying to build up the momentum and hoping that their candidate will be given a go-ahead or will be confirmed as the person who will fly the Orange Democratic Movement flag for the August 8 polls. And so the situation here remains shaky because we do not know what next in terms of the decision that will be taken by the tribunal, and what next, what will be the repercussion with the supporters of various candidates who are inside the Gracia Hotel Gardens for the hearings. And so we understand that some of the petitioners or some of the aspirants who lodge their complaints are waiting to hear the final on what exactly should be done to their tickets or what should be done to their arrest, because it is technically impossible now probably to prepare another repeat of party primaries with a little time that is remaining. And so what is there is to have a consensus sort of a thing to ensure that all the parties all the parties get satisfied with the ruling that the tribunal will give. But we understand, like we mentioned earlier, Freddie, is political parties are pushing their candidates who lost in the primaries to contest as independent candidates and vowing that they will be supported across the board, because they want to ensure that there will be a massive voter turnout or a high voter turnout in strongholds in the August 8 polls. And so that is what is happening here at the Gracia Hotel Gardens. Probably by afternoon or by 1 o'clock we'll be able to tell the way forward or some of the progress that the tribunal for the Orange Democratic Movement will be taking. Also we understand some action is going on in the Orange House, a few meters from this place where we are. Some of the aspirants get window for lodging those complaints is actually closing down because of the timelines that the IEBC had set for political parties to conduct their primaries and conclude all the disputes that will be arising from those particular primaries and submit the names of successful candidates for the IEBC to roll its wheels ahead of the August 8 polls. And so, Freddie, I hand you back to studio, but as we get the finer details from the sittings of the tribunal, we will be able to give you a brief from the Gracia Gardens Hotel here in Kilimani. Back to you in studio, Frank.
Thank you, Stephen Leto. Stephen Leto, live from Kilimani. We do understand where that's the new venue of the ODM Party's Disputes Tribunal. Remember, their sittings at the Mashpak Hotel along Gong Road were disrupted yesterday by goons, and so they've changed locations to Kilimani. We'll be linking up with Stephen Leto in our subsequent bulletins. But now, back in studio, Brian Ochola is ready with what's trending. Brian, it's been a long weekend.